Have you ever led people, stewarded vision, carried the weight of something God gave you, and still felt completely alone? You're not the only one. In fact, loneliness might be one of the most common unspoken battles leaders face, especially kingdom-minded ones. In today's episode, we're getting honest. Not polished, not filtered. Because the truth is, leadership can feel like a wilderness when you're building what no one else fully sees. But I believe that there's an invitation from heaven in the middle of that ache. Not just to survive your season, but to be truly known and to lead from a place of union instead of isolation. So if your heart feels weary, if you've been carrying something heavy in silence, or if you've just been wondering, is there anyone really seeing me? This episode's for you. Pull up a chair. Let's talk about the loneliness of a leader and the invitation to be fully seen, spiritually covered, and deeply connected. Lone wolfing! Today we're talking about isolation in leadership.
Yep.
How that's not God's plan or design, but honestly, one of the greatest pain points that we have experienced with all of the leaders that we talk to is...
Even ourselves.
Sure. Well, we have each other.
We were lonely in leadership.
That's true. In our journey, you're right. But loneliness is something that affects most every leader because most of the burden is on you, or at least that's what we believe.
Mm-hmm.
And I can't open up to my team.
Yep.
I can't open up to my board. I need to be the leader. I need to be strong. I need to carry the vision. I need to move things forward.
Mm-hmm.
And those are all the lies that we believe, right? Well, there is some truth to it because honestly, if we haven't formed a healthy culture in our board and it's been about performance, then you're not going to open up to them. Yep. You're trying to lead your team, and again, if you've built a team culture where it's about performance and outcome, and not about being known, then it gets really tricky because I can't really open up to you and be a person.
Yep.
So who do you open up to? That's the reason why we do what we do in
I would
coaching.
just believe these lies that I shouldn't be vulnerable with the people that I'm leading.
Yeah.
Like, that makes me look weak, makes me look insecure. People won't trust me if they know what I really struggle with at the end of the day.
Yeah.
They won't follow me if they actually know what is happening in my internal world.
The truth is, when we choose to be authentic, it doesn't mean you need to share everything, but hey, I'm really wrestling with this for this reason. Then what it does is it creates a safe space for other people to actually, have their feelings and feel. It's important. And it's not just about the outcome, but it's actually about building a culture of vulnerability and family and awareness.
Yep.
Yeah.
I would say as leaders, though, I don't feel like we give ourselves enough permission to say that there's actually an ache of loneliness there. Like,
right.
That we feel that ache consistently, or whether we feel it in our marriage or we feel it in our team or we feel it in our family, that ache of being alone and not understood and not known for who you really are, like not being seen and not being known at the end of the day, that it's there. I don't feel like we give leaders permission to actually say that.
Right. And what's happened a lot with leaders, and I think about it, it doesn't really matter if it's a business leader, a church leader, or whoever. A lot of the time, the choice to be vulnerable has led to people leveraging that for their own gain.
Yep.
And using it against them, weaponizing that vulnerability against them.
Totally.
And then what that does is it further perpetuates this idea that I need to be alone, I need to be alienated. You don't think that, but you're just like, I'm a lone wolf, I'm going to get this done, I'm just going to put my head down and do it. Rather than learning the discernment as to who to be open with, who to share with, who to be vulnerable with. And walking that out in a healthy way with the right people. And honestly, the only way through that and growing the gift of discernment is sometimes through mistakes, through the school of hard knocks. I mean, we've kind of been through that. I remember one time you and we tried to force a team environment where it's like, oh, we're family, we're a team, and people didn't even really like each other.
They
It
did
was like,
not
but it
like
was in
each
ministry, so I was
other.
like, oh, this is a good idea.
It's a good idea. We're meant to be unified.
Yeah.
Unity means that we
God,
can all be.
wait, hear this. God commands a blessing when there's unity.
Oh my gosh.
It's true. It's in the Bible.
Yeah, but what is unity? That's a whole other thing.
Unity is a fruit of us mutually abiding.
Weird. I thought it was something that we
And that's
strive
why there's a
towards.
blessing. No,
Yeah.
let's have unity meetings and a unity movement, and let's all be unified.
That's conformity. Anyways, no, that's not for this podcast.
No, but okay, it's the false excuse that we use to create false vulnerability rather than just authenticity. That's the biggest currency, I think, today is authenticity, because with the advent of AI and so many people trying to put forward who they think is their truest self on social media, it can all be polished, or whatever, but authenticity is the thing that people are looking for.
Yep.
And so what does that look like as a leader, to choose to be authentically who God's designed you to be, to say it's okay that I'm having a hard day or whatever, that I have a need. We just talked about that in our previous podcast. I have a need as a leader. You're not needy if you have a need. Everyone has a need. And if we choose to engage that as leaders, what it does is it creates space for others to be known, because you're known, and then people can step into those things that they're designed to step into, and it actually elevates the culture.
Yep.
It's amazing.
But it's lonely at the top.
It is lonely at the top, especially when we have believed the lie of independence and self-sufficiency. It says his grace is sufficient for us. It has nothing to do with you. Yep. There's no self-sufficiency. You're not sufficient within yourself. You need a savior.
Yep.
You're not independent. You are interdependent, or you're isolated. That's all it is. People use that term as a compliment all the time, and I'm actually really on guard with our daughters specifically, because I don't know if you know this, but you're a strong woman. Yep. And I'm a pretty strong man too, and that creates some pretty strong kids.
We have very strong, healthy, confident kids.
And people are like, oh, they're going to be such independent people, and I'm like, bleh. I actually I'm like, no. Yep. No, I actually would say, no, you know what? They know who they are, and they have a space to be that. Yeah. And that's what God has designed them.
Well, one of the biggest lies is we think that maturity is independence.
Right.
Maturity is interdependence.
I mean, it's not even true in a business sense.
Yep.
Every multi-million or billion-dollar company has some form of venture capital or investment. So is that independence? No, you depended on investment. All of those people have mentors. Yep. People who have poured into them. At minimum, books. Okay? But here's where independence and really forms a culture of isolation is when I need to build my own Tower of Babel. Okay? I am trying to build this thing to ascend to God, and it's my good ideas, rather than understanding that I am in him and he is in me, and I'm already connected. Yep. And I'm safe in him. Yep. People might not be safe for you. That actually might be true based off of different trauma that you've experienced, based off of actual people that you're around.
Well, let's chat through common experiences that we have found with our clients that would identify as lonely leaders. Like, common experience is, or common things I've heard them say is that they're surrounded by people all day long and they still feel unknown at the end of the day. Like, their true, authentic self is very unknown. It's like people know them as the business guy. They know them as whatever their business name is. They know them as that guy. But when you ask them, like, what does your boss like to do for fun? And their employees have no idea. Or what is your boss's biggest fear? They have no idea. They're not known at the end of the day. And that's, terrifying for lonely leaders. Is like, I'm actually like and I remember we were chatting with Jake Hamilton, and he said this is like, men especially can always see where they're falling short somewhere. Like male business owners can always see where they're falling short, whether it be their marriage, their team, their family, their business. And a lot of the ways that they feel like they're falling short is they're lonely. And they know it, but they don't know how to get out of it.
Absolutely.
So some of the lies that they believe is like they're carrying the vision that no one else can see. I have to carry this thing and I have to keep like pushing the vision forward, and there's an unnecessary weight behind the vision that no one else can fully get or fully see. And that's hard when you're a big visionary and you feel like you're responsible for dragging, I don't know, a 300-pound vision around all the time. Yep.
Navigating criticism or silence when trying to lead with what God's doing. So
so lonely.
It can be.
We had people do that to us all the time when they're like, are you sure your business idea is a good idea? Are you sure that aligning people into their actual authentic identity is going to make you money?
Well, no, it wasn't even that. It was like we couldn't articulate what it was properly because at first it was just intercession. Now it's intercession leadership coaching. And the whole outflow of that is helping people get in alignment with who God's called them to be and with heaven. But it took a while to articulate that. So the struggle was the finances, right?
Yeah.
Which is alienating to in and of itself.
Yeah.
You don't have, you wrestle with the actual business decisions all of the time, and you have to make those on your own. Budget's getting tight. This person's causing an issue.
Well, we had one client who was like, I can't take a break from my phone. Like, I can't stop. It's not even this business anymore. It's all of these other things that I'm managing that I can't stop managing. And it's like, oh, that sucks that you can't stop managing those things and be present with your wife and your kids.
Yeah.
That sucks.
That's really challenging. Absolutely. Trying to have a work-life balance.
Not a thing.
And manage your marriage, your team, your family, your business, but you're always feeling like you're falling short somewhere.
Yeah. Biggest thing with men is they always feel like they're falling short somewhere.
Absolutely.
And they're feeling responsible, whether it be spiritually responsible, financially responsible, like professionally responsible for their team or their clients. But at the end of the day, they have no one covering them. And what I mean by covering is like they have no one that knows their heart, knows what they're wrestling with, knows who they are at the end of the day when all of the masks come off. They have no one that knows them, because love can only cover where you choose to reveal and be known. And where you choose to hide, that's where you're choosing to cover yourself.
It's called fig leaves, right? Back to the tree of
the garden.
Or the garden, yeah. When Adam and Eve tried to cover themselves, that wasn't even what God wanted to cover them with.
Yep.
But we're trying to cover our shame.
Yep. So
I'm ashamed that I can't do this. I'm ashamed that I have a need.
Yep. So when clients phone in, like we have a hotline. We don't have a hotline. When clients were on calls and they're like, oh, well, I'm just not feeling covered. I'm just not covered by my pastor, or covered by whatever. Like, our business offers covering, but it's not an explicit service that we offer. Like, you're covered here. It's like covering happens when you choose to remove how you're hiding and bring things into the light. And the substance of love is covering who you are. And then eventually you realize that he is covering who you are, and you don't need us to cover you anymore because you've become so aligned into him. But there is like a middle place, and that's great. We don't mind being in the middle place. But a lot of the times leaders don't feel covered at the end of the day. They feel like open and exposed, and they're getting blasted by the enemy.
Well, I like to think of covering as instead of like I'm hovering over you. The covering is like I got your back, like the Navy SEALs, like cover me, and you're taking territory, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
That's the way I think of covering. So what are the go ahead.
Go ahead.
Yeah, what are the emotions that these people are feeling? Well, the first one is often burnout. They're exhausted. But they keep going on, coffee and Jesus in that order, probably.
Sometimes some Adderall.
Adderall.
Sometimes.
Little nicotine here and there.
Nicotine.
Hopefully no illegal narcotics. No, we don't have any of that with our clients.
But it's exhaustion, and they mask it as I'm just persevering.
Yeah.
Just persevering. One more thing. On to the next thing. I'm just going and striving and doing. And oh my gosh, like the substance which they're communicating from is exhaustion.
Isolation masked as independence.
You should do your little like lone wolf howl.
Yeah. So, yeah, I'm just a lone wolf.
Mm-hmm. Nobody gets me.
But you're really just depending on you, and we're not actually depending on Jesus and Christ in others as well.
Yeah. One I've seen, and this is when I feel like most of our clients actually find us, is when they're in this inner turmoil of like, I feel like I have to still be strong, and their heart is crying out for help, and they have no one to cry out help to. Like, who do I cry? I can't tell my team I need help. I can't tell my wife I need help. I can't tell my pastor I need help. Like, who do I actually tell at the end of the day that I need help?
Often when people are met with that cry for help, historically they get good advice or Bible verses, and that doesn't actually help anyone transform into the image of Jesus. Only Jesus can help you transform into the image of Jesus.
Like, can we stop giving people our opinions and good Bible verses when they're crying out for help?
Mm-hmm.
Like, oh, I'm depressed. Oh, the joy of the Lord is your strength. Shut up. That is not helping me right now at all.
It doesn't help anyone.
What show were we watching last night with Jason Segel? Shrinked.
Yeah.
And his spoiler, his wife died in the show. And,
Episode 1 is not that big of a spoiler.
yeah, and he's a shrink, right? And he hadn't talked to his best friend in a year, and he gets around his best friend, and he's upset at his best friend because his best friend just has this perspective of like, everything always works out for me. And he's like, do you know how frustrating it is to have your wife just die and hear you say, everything just works out for me? I was like, I get that.
Yeah.
And then his friend turns back and he goes, I said everything works out for me, not you.
Like as a joke.
As
it was
joke.
pretty funny.
But it broke the tension in the relationship of him realizing that his friend wanted to be there for him. And that was the other thing, is that his friend was trying to rescue him out of hitting rock bottom. Mm-hmm. And he actually needed to hit rock bottom. Great show. Well, we've only watched 2 episodes, so I can't say great show. Great first 2 episodes. But it was just this whole thing again of like this inner war of I'm suffering, I'm hurting, I need help. Who do I ask for help at the end of the day? And I'm not asking for help for your good opinion or your best Bible verse. When someone's asking for help, they're asking to be seen and known and loved at the end of the day. And when people feel seen and known and loved, it's amazing how Jesus helps them.
Mm-hmm. So what if people are misunderstood or judged when they're trying to make a decision, or even God gives them a revelation of something that they're supposed to do? And like, this is where God is inviting me, and now you're getting judged or condemned or misunderstood in the result. We
heard that so much. Greg, go get a job. Go get a job, Greg. Go get a job. Go provide for your family,
and
Greg.
there's people trying to rescue me out of my own pain.
Oh my gosh, as if every job didn't work out for you. Literally, God closed every door. And it's like everyone's giving you their good idea. And it's like, shut up, I don't want your good idea. Encourage him in what God is doing in his life right now. But did those people stop and ask God what God was doing in his life right now? No, they didn't. Am I a little bitter about it? Probably. Am I protective of you and your process?
Am I running on a lack of sleep because my child was up all night? Definitely.
Definitely. But like, gosh, it makes me so frustrated when people are in this beautiful process and we try to put our best practice onto their God-driven process. Mm-hmm. Just shut up. We need like a day of silence, like a day shut up day.
Shut up day?
Shut up day every week. Just shut up and just let someone be in their process.
Should be Friday, so we have the day off.
Shut up day. Yeah. Where it's like, just don't give your best advice. And on this day, I promise, once a week, I'm not going to give you those things. And watch how your relationships get so much better because you're not trying to fix the internal anxiety and project it onto someone else.
Didn't we just learn a negotiation tactic is to just not talk and let the other person talk? Mm-hmm. It's actually a closing tactic too, but not trying to say best practices. One time we were learning how to form community. You know the exact story I'm talking about, right? we're trying to learn how to build authentic community, and so we did this whole exercise where we shared our stories and stuff, and it was great. It took a long time to get there, and some amazing fruit from that group. And then so one of the people who was notoriously the question asker, and she's just really wise. But we all felt from God to just not talk, and this person
This
started.
wasn't even the like sharing their story
No,
time.
no, no. This was
Yeah.
just a random thing, and we just stopped talking
Yeah.
for like 2 hours, and it was funny because they kept sharing, and it was so uncomfortable, but then they were known in it, and it was really beautiful, and that's the cry of our heart, is to be known in this. And so one of the other things is a fear of being fully seen will cost people credibility,
Yeah.
influence, and perceived authority.
Yep.
Like, so so here's the biggest lie. Here's the biggest lie. I'll just let you know it. Here's the biggest lie everyone believes in their heart. If you actually knew me, you would reject me.
Yeah.
That's the lie.
Mm-hmm.
It's the greatest fear. Everyone's greatest fear is to be known, but it's also their greatest desire, is to be known.
Yep.
We're actually designed to be known.
Yep.
So the lie is that I'm going to lose authority if I share this with you.
Authority, impact, influence, credibility, reputation.
Reputation.
Reputation is a huge one. My reputation is going to take a hit if I actually am known and fully seen.
What if your reputation in heaven mattered more than your reputation on earth?
Yep.
Just a thought. You're not weak because you're lonely. You're not broken because you crave to be known. That's the image of God in you, longing for connection, for union, first with Him and then with others. Because we are designed by God to be known by God. Jesus said, "You may do many mighty miracles, cast out demons, and heal the sick. But in those days, I'll say, 'Depart from me, evildoer, for I never knew you.'" We are designed to be known by God, not just to know God, but to be known by God. We are designed to be known by each other.
Mm-hmm.
We can actually go all the way back, and I will quickly, where this began to be violated, where I stopped trusting you, was in right after the garden with Cain and Abel. Because the orphaned heart separated from the father, and the widowed heart separated from our spouse happened when Adam and Eve chose to eat the apple. Yeah. And don't pretend like you wouldn't have. You would have eaten the apple.
We all do. It's called the knowledge of good, and you do it probably every day. So don't blame Eve. Blame yourself. That's my TED Talk.
That's my TED Talk. Thank you for coming.
It's literally the knowledge of good. We're going to talk about this probably on our next episode. But yeah, you eat from the knowledge of good every day. It's the goodest good.
But here's where alienation started. It's when Cain killed Abel. They had to live in perfect community at that point. Mm-hmm. But now I can't trust my neighbor anymore, because they might be jealous. They might try and take something from me. And that iniquity is perpetuated in the hearts of every person. So how we need to overcome it is we need to be known by God, and then take the risk and let Him highlight who to be known by in others. Yep. Because, and here's another thing that is difficult. I'm just going to go in on all the things. I don't respect you. I respect Christ in you. God is no respecter of persons, meaning your status, your money, your power are meaningless to God. Yep. But I respect Christ in you. What does that mean? I respect who God has originally designed you to be. And when I can respect that and see that come to the surface, that is beautiful. Yep. Respect is a fruit of love. Yep. Just like honor.
So you can't fear and shame people into respect?
Oh, you can fear and shame them into obedience. For sure.
Mm-hmm. That's where you get the whole good girl, good boy. My kids are so well behaved. It's because they're afraid of you. But my employees are so well behaved. It's because they're afraid of you. It's the same thing. The little boy, the little girl in their heart is stuck in a cycle of performance out of fear.
But it's because of the fear in your heart.
Yep.
And perfect love casts out fear, because fear has to do with punishment.
Another way to say casts out is it displaces.
Absolutely.
Perfect love displaces fear. And so here's how I know you don't have perfect love flowing out of your heart is your employees are afraid of you. You're afraid of being known. You're afraid of others. That's how I know you don't have perfect love in your heart.
And that fear is coming from a fear of actually being seen and known.
Yep. Because
And I'm not saying like you got to be best friends.
Mm-hmm.
But it's okay to have a bad day and just be like, listen, guys, like this is hard.
Yeah.
Like what we're going through as a business sucks. And they'll be like, yeah, it does. And you actually have a relational and emotional win.
Yep.
But it has to be in you before you begin to perpetuate that culture outside of you, or else what's going to happen is it can create unhealth in the culture.
Yeah, so let's chat through systems and beliefs that have taught us as leaders how to isolate and self-protect.
So cultural and religious conditioning is a huge thing. So in the Western world, our culture, especially for men is a big one. I really believe we can get men aligned. Like I do agree with that. If we can get men aligned, you have homes aligned.
Yep.
You have society healthy.
Yep.
When men are aligned. And women are equally as alienated because they're expected to be these supermoms. Social media influences people to believe that they have to be all of these things because everyone's putting their perceived best self out forward. Mm-hmm. But what do you see is, for me at least, my algorithm is becoming more and more about authenticity.
Yeah.
Of like, oh, this is real parenthood. This is real. This is real leadership.
Yep.
I love that.
Yeah.
But religion teaches us I need to do good to be good. Mm-hmm. Where kingdom family teaches us this is a relationship with God. Goodness is a fruit of the Spirit. So mm-hmm. God made you good.
Yep.
And therefore you can be good.
Yep. It also turns us into like a machine, a supernatural machine. Just always be strong, always be joyful, always be self-sacrificing, always put everybody else first, always do this. Always, there's these always statements.
Leaders are readers. I always got to be reading. I got to be taking in more information. You know what God just brought me through a season of? Was he said, you're not allowed to listen through or listen to any books, because I like to listen to books. I fall asleep when I read in like a page. You're not allowed to listen to any podcasts. I just want to talk to you for a while.
If you're not growing, you're regressing.
Which is like true kind of in a profitability standpoint, but it's not true in a kingdom standpoint.
Nope.
We live this. So performance culture says your value is your productivity.
Produce more and more, grow.
It's very much a cultural input from Western society.
It's exhausting.
It is.
It's exhausting.
It is.
It's the next shiny object syndrome. I got it right this time. The next shiny thing, it's like everyone's looking for the next big thing. Oh my gosh, there is nothing new under the sun. Nothing new under the sun. Stop looking for the next big thing and just be present with him. And trust that if there's a next big thing, he'll tell you.
How about this? Many leaders are fathering without actually being fathered themselves.
Another way to say that is many leaders are mentoring without being mentored themselves.
Yeah.
Because fathering's a weird world. Weird
word
in the world of business.
Sure.
I'm a business father. No one says that. I know none of you are saying that.
But it's simply it's a truth. So here's something that's hard for us. It's hard for me. Honestly, it's still kind of weird. I'm getting used to it. But I've learned this concept where I father as the father is fathering, but I'm your friend.
But I'm your friend.
Okay. What that means
That's what
is,
Jesus did.
right, he only did what he saw the Father doing. He only said what he heard the Father saying. That's how Jesus lived his life, and that's how because he's in us, that's how he's empowered us to live our lives. However, a lot of us are still learning that. And so what it does in relational proximity is when I'm your mentor, I can never be your friend. When I'm your father, that's going to be the primary relationship. We're not going to enter into friendship, generally speaking. But if I can start off as your friend and I can father as the Father is fathering. Here's the thing I do with our team. Our team knows that you and I are the leaders of the business. That's not like the new information. But they don't, I hope and I don't think they feel like less than. In fact, what I see happening is they thank us for like, thanks for creating a space for me to do this.
For me to be myself.
Well, yeah, and it's like, are you kidding me? What a privilege. Like, I just want to see that drawn out of people into the fullness of who they are.
Yeah.
So they don't feel like I'm some person lording over them, but I'm just, I can participate with how God sees them and see that drawn out of them. That's like, that is so fun and honestly very profitable. Like it's amazing.
Very profitable.
It is.
Yeah,
it is because but that's not the motive. It's just a fruit.
Yeah.
Many
leaders are under constant spiritual warfare, but that's because they haven't been taught how to govern from heaven. Where you've been taught to spiritually war, and instead you're in a cycle of spiritual warfare, which is reactive, instead of governing, which is what we're called to do in union.
The devil's around every corner. It's probably here's the thing. It's probably true. There's probably what is that quote we heard recently? There's a devil behind every bush. It's like there's actually there's actually probably 3 or 4, but our goal is not to be focused on them. We must keep our eyes fixed on
Jesus.
Oh yeah. The author and perfecter of our faith. So if we're constantly focused on the war,
enemy's attacking me.
We're not focused on abiding, then that's where our attention and energy is going to be drawn, and we're going to be burned out on this war that's not actually happened. Jesus has already won, and all we're doing is learning to govern and appropriate the victory. Hey, it's like the enemy is defeated, and there's these little factions everywhere that it's like, we're gonna rise up, and it's like, no, you can't. But the way that we govern is we actually displace evil by bringing love to those areas. That's what happens in your heart. That's what happens in society.
Yeah. When we war instead of govern, we become drained, hypervigilant, and disconnected.
Hooray, disconnection.
Hooray. Nobody understands the war that I'm fighting. Yeah, because you're fighting a war that we're not called to war. We're called to govern. We're not called to be prayer warriors. We're called to be prayer governors. You're welcome.
Is there a scripture that says prayer warriors?
There's no scripture that says warfare in general, other than, Ephesians.
For the weapons of our warfare, not carnal, but mighty for tearing down strongholds. But we come against every lofty opinion set against the knowledge of Jesus.
Correct.
Being ready to punish every disobedience till our obedience is made complete.
Yep.
So wait, the warfare in that scripture isn't spiritual warfare. It's renewing your mind. It's a mindset thing.
Renewing your mind.
Where I'm not aware of the union I have with Jesus, and I need to punish the disobedience in my mind, because that's the stronghold the enemy operates in. And so I punish that disobedience until the obedience is made complete in my heart.
Yeah.
Then the obedience is my oneness in him, being known how loved I am.
Yeah. All of creation is not groaning for the revealing of more warriors. All of creation is groaning for the revealing of more sons. Sons who govern, not sons who war. The world is not waiting for another war meeting. It's waiting for a governing. Sons and daughters to govern.
And what we find is the loneliness increases when these spiritual tools aren't working and no one sees your needs. So I'm warring, and there's this false armor we put on ourselves, and it gets heavy, and this battle is so hard, and everyone's against me. It's like,
no one understands.
If God is for you, who can be against you? If you're doing what he's doing.
Yeah.
So yes, in this world there will be trouble, but he has overcome the world. Our view quite often of the gospel is so small that it limits the power of God, and we feel like we need to take it over. God, I got it from here. Jesus, you did it on the cross. Thank you. I got it from here, Jesus. Like it wasn't all finished back then.
What if he actually defeated evil on the cross?
And now
what if he actually did it?
And now he's teaching you to govern as a son and daughter, because that's actually what you're called to do on earth and in eternity.
We are co-heirs in Christ, not co-warriors in Christ. And
co-warriors.
Here's the thing, and I think we talked about this on a previous podcast about the de-armoring sessions that we've done. We've done this with most business owners, more the wives, because I find that the wives tend to take on the spiritual warfare component more than the husbands.
True.
That's our bad. We're warring. It's where we feel important. It's where we feel like we need to be faithful stewards, is to do prayer and intercession and war. And oh my gosh, if I can count endlessly the number of books that have been inaccurately written on spiritual warfare and have equipped us as women to be inaccurate and inefficient in warfare, only to open up our family to a lot of warfare. But anyway, so with wives, we've been doing, I would say, a de-armoring session with every single business owner's wife that we've had as a client to date. And every single time they're taking off this armor, it's something like plasticky looking in the spirit. It looks like Roman armor. And inside of that armor are these tiny little like needles or little swords. And all it's doing is stabbing yourself. It's tiny little jab, stabs, whatever. And they're bleeding and no one can see that they're literally bleeding out because they have this fake armor on. This self-righteousness. I am strong. I am brave. I'm going to war. I'm contending. I'm pushing back against darkness. And it's literally like that image when you see activism, like that fight, like it's this in the spirit. You got stop. The armor of God is light. It literally says this in Romans, that the armor of God is light, and I mean illuminescent, translucent, and also if something is literally light, it feels light. It's not weighty, it's not burdensome, it's not any of these things, but inaccurate spiritual warfare makes us feel so isolated because no one gets it. No one gets it. And then as no one gets it, we get further and further and further into isolation because no one understands me. No one understands the battle I'm facing. And I find most intercessors, most well-intended people are in caves, hiding, bleeding out, depressed, trying to figure out what God is doing and can't even figure out how they got into the cave in the first place. And that's so sad and so lonely because that's not New Testament intercession, governing. That's not any of it. Intercession is just removing all of the pseudo selves. Spiritual warfare is just removing all of the pseudo selves that people put up in love and just stripping them away with love. Until they realize how loved they are. There is no New Testament example of territorial warfare. There's no New Testament example of spiritual mapping or any of those things. What there is the Great Commission, which is to go into all the world and make disciples. How do you make disciples? You love people. And you remind them of their union.
It's actually to make disciples of every nation.
Of every nation. How do you do that? Person by person, love by love. Yeah. What makes us feel isolated is when we're taught all of this bull crap from the church of just like how we're supposed to war. And then I watch well-intended business leaders who take these spiritual warfare strategies and try to implement them into their business and then wonder why they're being like blasted by the enemy because you're going to war where you don't need to go to war. The war has already been won. We're called to govern and you get taken out because you're instead of ruling and reigning, you're warring. And that's where people are being taken out.
Well, and you're being taken out because you are alienated. You're isolated. That's how any prey animal, a predator animal, takes out prey. Is they isolate. They do. You watch. I love nature documentaries. We don't watch enough of those. Our kids find them boring. Hunting. I do like hunting too. But let's use the nature documentaries to not offend the vegans. I'm just teasing. Sort of. They're just the religious vegans who wouldn't be listening to this podcast anyways. No, what I find is every time those predator animals want to hunt, they peel off one from the herd, usually the weaker ones.
Yep.
And that's what they go after. Right?
Yep.
Okay. So in alienation, you're susceptible to attack.
Yeah.
But we quite often believe we need to attack as a leader from alienation.
Yeah. Here's the other thing is you think that you're weak because you're choosing to be vulnerable. You're weak because you're in isolation, not because you're choosing to be vulnerable and known.
Absolutely.
Isolation is the weakness,
Because
not the
the
vulnerability.
kingdom reality is interdependence.
Yeah.
And it starts from the Godhead. God is community.
Yep.
So we have the only being in the universe. Love is the only self-existent force in the universe, and it's self-existent in the bond of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit.
Yep.
So we can talk a little theology right now, because it actually does impact how we perceive all of this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Where there's basically, if you want to distill it down, there's two trains of thoughts. There's hierarchy in the Trinity, or there's equality in the Trinity. And for me, I'm of the volition of equality in the Trinity. So basically, hierarchy in the Trinity would say there's the Father is above the Son is above the Holy Spirit. But then you kind of run into some problems when Jesus says there's someone coming who's greater than I, and that's the Holy Spirit. And then Jesus defers to the Father defers to the Son. All authority in heaven and earth has been given to me, says Jesus. So that would make the Father below Jesus. But then Jesus said, I only do what I see my Father doing. Here's the thing. They are constantly deferring to each other because they are three persons, one God.
Mm-hmm.
Only being that is like that. And what that can look like, if our mere mortal minds can understand this, is there's the Father, the Son, and the Spirit all face to face with each other. And the Father is everything that the Son is. Every single bit of him except Father.
Mm.
And the Son is everything that the Father is except Son.
Mm-hmm.
And the Spirit is everything that the Father and Son are except Spirit. It is the unique part of their personhood. But when the Father does something, the Son and the Spirit do the exact same thing. It's like they are saying the exact same words in the exact same way with the exact same motions. And vice versa with the Son and with the Spirit, because they are so interconnected. They are one heart, one mind. They are so filled. And the thing that bonds them and binds them is their love. God is love. It's that forever love that we have been born from. Creation was born from, and we exist within.
Yeah.
And so to believe we can do anything on our own apart from God is a logical fallacy. I can do no thing apart from you.
Yep.
We exist within his love. And so he lets us play independence sometimes to work it out of us, but it's not who we are. We are called to be interdependent. But here's the biggest lie that attacks it. And we've attacked a lot of these already. We've touched on these points. But in order to risk being known. So intimacy is what it is. Into me, you see, everyone wants intimacy. Now, and it's not like a weakness intimacy. It's not like a spousal intimacy. It's just being seen into and known. Everyone wants that. Mm-hmm. But to have that, we need to feel safe.
Yeah.
And how many of us know how to create a safe place?
Not many.
For others. To not fix their problems. To just listen and hear. We listen and we don't judge. That's the trend going on in social. Right?
We judge a little.
Yeah, we judge just a little.
That's how most of us are. Is we listen and we judge.
Well, we create a safe space. And we listen and we don't give our advice.
Yep.
We listen and we don't give you the Bible verse or the best practice.
Ooh, we listen and we don't pray for you right away.
Ooh.
Uh-oh.
That doesn't sound very good Christian of you.
That's not good Christian of me.
I'm
not here trying to be a good Christian.
I know you aren't.
You're trying to create a safe place where people don't feel like I'm just praying for them because it's the right thing to do.
Here's the thing, and spoiler alert, if this scares you away, that's okay. Most of our clients end up in tears at some point.
Usually within the first 30 to 40 minutes of the call.
Here's the deal, though. You're crying those things anyways. It just is inside of you.
Yeah.
It's a lot of the clients actually end up crying tears because it's the goodness of God, not just being known, not pain, you know?
Mm-hmm.
What do you have always said this to me?
Tears are for joy and healing.
That's right. Tears are for joy and for healing.
Yep.
It's a great thing. And so how do we create a safe place? Well, we just mentioned that. Like we don't judge, we don't try and fix the problem. We just create a space to listen and to be known.
Yep.
And to know each other. And then out of that, Jesus, what are you doing and how do I participate? That's fine. But we can listen to God together. And here's the beautiful part. Submit yourselves one to another.
Mm-hmm.
We don't give you advice. I'm sorry. That's not what we do in coaches.
No.
We won't give you advice. We submit what we believe Jesus is saying. We get a resonance, like sound, like whoa, whoa, like it's reverberating, it's resonating with the frequency of heaven because we are hearing together.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's not just you're not alienated in your hearing anymore. And then it affirms what God is saying. And then we take action on what God is saying and trust. And we learn and grow in this process that we're not going to get it perfect. But that's not the point. The point isn't your performance. The point is the relationship. So we're connected to that life union with Jesus. And so as we do that, oh man, doesn't this sound like good news? I don't have to be alone anymore. And it's not just with Greg and Angela. Now I can learn how to be present and in union with the Father. I can learn how to discern who to be present and in union with in person because we work with people all across North America and have worked with people across the world. Because we can't be your local community. Yep. We just can't.
Correct.
And now I can learn how to be known and safe and build this. And this actually perpetuates a culture in our societies where we can be known and loved and invite other people into that union. And it's beautiful. We watch this happen. We're watching this happen with some of our clients and then some of the stuff we're doing in our business right now, where people are like, I didn't know this was possible. They're so excited.
They're literally like, where has this been for the last 30, 40 years?
Oh man, we have people who are I think they're in their 70s or 80s and they're like, we haven't heard almost everything that you've been teaching on. And
I'm
so
like, really? This is pretty normal for us.
Part of me, exactly, and that's the thing, is part of me goes like, what are you listening to?
Yeah, what are you listening to?
But the other part of me is like, you know what, that is the fruit of religious performance and culture. Yeah. That's the fruit of keeping people and saying, the church box, this is your community, so let's just keep it all in here. Fortunately, we don't live in a community like that in our church. We're like, I really mean that. We have awesome leadership, not perfect, but awesome, and we're really grateful for that because they're like, no, we see that it's far beyond this. But most churches get territorial. It's my church versus your church. It's my denomination versus your denomination. Catholic, Protestant, Orthodox. What is it gonna be? Guess what? You are all part of one body. You're not all part of one Catholic body. You're not all part of one Protestant party, and that would really offend the Protestants, because we love our denominations.
Sure do.
That would offend the Orthodox body. We are all part of one body of Christ. And how can I say I have no need of you? I can't. So guess what, people? I need you and you need me. That's kind of the deal. Mm-hmm. We are the bride of Christ. One body.
So heaven's blueprint isn't isolation. It's interdependence.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think we've touched on a lot of these points.
Yeah.
So
we were never meant to build a business alone. We were never meant to carry a business alone. Here's the biggest one for our business CEO clients. We were never meant to discern alone. That is one of the biggest hiccups I see with our business clients, is they have been discerning God's voice alone for decades. And it is shocking and humbling for them when they start to realize that maybe everything that they have been discerning was not actually the Spirit. Mm-hmm. Because if we know in part and we prophesy in part, then we discern in part, we get words of knowledge in part, we get words of wisdom in part, and we need community around us to get that resonance. Like Greg said, what makes our client call so powerful is it's not just coaching, we have intercessors on the call, and what we're distilling it down to, one of our staff members said this really well, is that we're distilling it down to what is the resonance behind the prophetic thing that the business owner is starting to discern.
Mm-hmm.
Because I have found a lot of business owners, it's like they get the discernment and they run with it. And then they're like, why is there no financing and all of these trails of bodies behind me? Oh no. And then we get them into community and they're like, oh, it wasn't the timing. Oh, I lacked this key piece of information. Oh, I mismanaged this, or I didn't have this. And it's just like, it's very obvious when you're in community and very not obvious when you're isolated and you're alone. And so the thing about interdependence is not weakness, it's strength. But I think leaders have been taught, oh my gosh, don't be dependent on anyone. Do it all yourself. You can't depend on anyone at the end of the day. You can only depend on yourself. How many times have I heard that as a leader? And to actually learn how to be dependent on Christ in someone else is powerful. And that's when the strength starts to come into our business.
I think what might be tricky is when we've hired based off of competency in the past. So this wasn't planned in our notes, but I actually sense to talk about this because how we've been instructed to hire by one of our amazing mentors. This is the system that he created. It's called the 3 C's. Buckle up, people. It's called character, commitment, and competency, in that order. So quite often, how we've hired in our businesses in the past is based off of competency, and we haven't really examined. Sure, we have character references.
Competency is performance. We've hired based off
of... Can you do the job?
Can you perform? What's your GPA? Yeah. How many courses have you done? What have you done in the past? Have you done this in the past?
Thank God I was never hired on GPA. Wow, you stifled that laugh pretty hard. Honestly,
I'm going to hire you based off of your GPA.
Thank you. No, we're hired based off of these performance metrics, but what if we hired based off of someone's character, like how they've actually developed their relationship with God, and then their commitment to be a part of this organization, this mission, and then their competency. Because here's the deal. Every business owner is going to know what I'm about to say as true. No one is competent to do the job that you hire them to do.
It's true.
They get trained on the job.
Yeah.
So why are we looking at a resume and competency that way rather than saying, okay, let's look at the character of a person's heart and their commitment to this cause. We've actually seen this with our clients where they recently developed a whole team around, they had some competency. They're trained in school in the field that they're in.
Yeah.
But they had never been like hired. But they are like, they've
never been hired.
They had never been hired before. They were at school, but their character was there and their commitment was like through the roof. Yeah. They actually took a pay cut from what they could have made to work for this organization. And they're so excited. And so that excitement and that culture and that character is just, it's infectious within that team. And they're like, we can conquer the world. Like it's awesome, but they have some wisdom to temper that. So these are young guys, right? Yeah. But there's some wisdom of time and age there that's also very competent, but he's excited to be there. It's creating this amazing dynamic, and they're innovating an app actually, and it's really, really cool. So they've actually implemented some of the stuff, and as a result, they get to see the culture be amazing.
Yeah.
But we've also seen when we hire based off of perceived competency.
My gosh, you can mask major character issues with your competency.
But when the storms of life come,
when
the money isn't there, when you're triggered for whatever reason, the character comes out. And when the character comes out, the true character where we haven't been conformed in the image of Jesus, this is why I said, I'm not a respecter. I don't respect you. I respect Christ in you.
Like, do you want to know what I say to people who are really high performers?
Sure.
What are you hiding? I say it as someone who was hiding a bunch of stuff. What are you hiding?
Yeah.
Like, what is the biggest thing that if people found out, you would be terrified? And if you can't answer that question for me, we probably won't hire you.
Well, you probably wouldn't be a good fit as a client because
Yep.
we will see that eventually.
Yep.
Or God, like those are the questions that we go for. So we are going for the people who are desiring to be the most authentic leader that God has called them to be.
Yep.
That's our ideal client. And that's the people we get to work with. It's so fun.
Because that's what it means to be at the root of it. Because I always get asked, well, what does it mean to be known? At the end of the day, I put it in like a tattletale kind of voice, but we get asked pretty regularly, what does it mean to be known? It means that you're known in who you're actually created to be in your original design, the real you. It means you're known, your false strengths are known. Like, oh, this is what I do. Like I tell people, oh, this is what I do when I'm performing versus this is who I am normally. And I am like, I use this language with my friends and they're kind of like, what do you mean by that? And I'm like, oh, like this was me, you know, when I was trying to please people and all this is what usually comes out. And this is me when I'm feeling super secure and loved and all of that. And I've gotten to the place of being able to self-analyze, not to the extent of like trying to circumcise myself, but just realizing when I'm in my most authentic self and when I'm not, when I'm feeling shame or fear or something like that. But being known means I can share what my weaknesses are and I'm still accepted. Mm-hmm. I'm still known. I'm not rejected. And I'll say that like, oh, I'm super weak in this area. Like we had to do a conflict situation and I was like, you know, I was really proud of myself because for 45 minutes of being accused, I was like pretty okay. I was like, wow, I'm not triggered. I'm pretty at peace. I'm hearing what the other person is saying. And then they railed this one comment that I was like, you know what? I don't think we're going to be able to, we're just going to agree to disagree at this point because what you're accusing me of is not even in the realm of who I am as a person. And in my weakness, I want to just like rail against this person and correct them. And I said this to the leader. I was like, you know, I'm really proud of myself because I didn't push back. But in my flesh, I was feeling like at that point, I was starting to get a little defensive. And that's when we needed to end the meeting. But here's my weakness is like, I wanted to get defensive and I didn't. Mm-hmm. And that's okay. And that's being known is like, I am not perfect. I'm going to boast in my weakness consistently. Always, I'll just be like, this is what I'm really weak at. And it's not a false humility thing. It's just, here are my strengths.
You're not that Canadian.
And I'm not that Canadian. And here are my weaknesses. And I know who I am in my original design. And I know who I'm not when I'm pretending. And I know, and it's being known not for my gifts or my accomplishments. Like I don't even think I really share all the things that I've done in my life anymore. Cause I'm like, it just doesn't matter to me, the things I've accomplished or the gift mix that I have or whatever. It's just like this is a funny one. Greg is trying to rebind his new Bible with a football, which is made out of leather. And I was just giving him some insight into how to redo the leather and stuff. And I was like, no, I actually had to do this when I was at the Air Force Academy. I had to like redo leather shoes and stuff and stretch them out. And this is how you stretch leather. And he had to ask the GPT on how to stretch leather and then comes back and
had to verify.
He had to verify that I was actually
GPT.
right. And comes back and verifies. And I was like, oh yeah, like this was just a skill, a gift that I had, whatever, in my previous lives. But I'm not out here trying to boast of my gifts or my accomplishments. I very rarely share my skill set. So I just don't have to because I'm known and I'm not using my skill set to be known. I'm not using my accolades, my successes to be known. I'm just known as Angela, who usually has her hair in a mom bun, probably shows up 15 minutes late because one of my kids was not dressed in time and it's probably my fault. And and the thing is like, I'm known emotionally. I'm known on my good days and my bad days. I'm known spiritually. I'm known prophetically. Like I have people in my life that see me through the eyes of love consistently and remind me of that instead of just, oh, I know you as the girl who shows up to this dinner every once in a while and you're having a bad day. And I'm known by that. You're known prophetically, consistently. Mm-hmm. That's what it is to be known. And that's what we get to offer our clients. Is we know them. We know them not because of their success or their accomplishments. We know them not because of all the wonderful things that they've done or how awesome they are. Although they are awesome. We know them emotionally and we make it safe for them to be known emotionally. We make it safe for them to be known spiritually, just where they really are at in their walk with God, whether it be in the middle of performance or like growing into understanding governance. We get to know them in those things.
Well, and the fruit of that for them in their business, in their life, is that they gain spiritual intelligence and strategic insight. It's heaven's strategy, but out of being known, not out of, hey, here's your prophetic insights and then we're gone. They gain discernment and clarity.
Yeah.
They gain relief from performance culture. How nice would that be?
That's really nice.
It's
really nice to get around people that you don't have to perform around.
Here's a big one we don't talk about often. I'm sure we will a little bit more, but they gain peace in their marriage and their family.
Yeah.
Because your business is a reflection of what's going on in your heart. So if there's an issue in your marriage, then that's actually affecting your business. Because
or if there's an
out
issue
of your
in
heart.
your business, it's probably affecting your marriage.
Mm-hmm. And they get momentum without burnout.
Because they're not performing anymore.
Just know.
Yeah.
So.
Well, here's our approach. Here's how our coaching calls look, I would say. How we address loneliness is we're always looking at your heart. We see the heart.
Mm-hmm.
And like I said, I think earlier on a different podcast, like we just love the real you, not the pseudo versions of you. And we reveal the pseudo versions of yourself. We help bring language and strategy to what's happening in your life. We unpack and say, oh, hey, this is what your heart is saying, and give you practical language. We walk with you until you're not in survival mode anymore. Mm-hmm. Once you're actually living from a place of like governing and union, I find our clients are good and they're not our clients anymore. And we love that. Although I'm sad to see them go in a way. We've had many clients transition off.
A few. It's funny because sometimes it's the perpetual walking and like growing into that identity too. And so it's a perpetual thing for both. It just depends on what God's doing.
Yeah. And we provide practical intercession that covers you. Again, covering is just to the level in which you reveal and are known. We can give intercession and insight and heaven's perspective into. Mm-hmm. And we do that alongside you. We're not just like out in la la land, just praying for you blindly and giving you a prophetic report back. We actually know you. We know your heart. We know what's going on. And we journey with you through whatever you're journeying through.
And gain that spiritual intelligence through prophetic revelation and intercession. So here's a few closing thoughts. Leader, you're not alone, and you were never designed to be alone.
Yeah.
The ache you feel isn't weakness. It's a divine invitation into alignment. So what we feel Jesus might be saying to you is that I see you, I choose you, and I've never asked you to carry this alone. And so this is your invitation to be known. Something that we love to do. We carry as a business, but really as people. And we'd love to see you operate in that freedom. Thanks so much. Thank you for joining us today. We hope you really enjoyed this message. If anything resonated with you from today's podcast, we wanted to ask to see if you'd be willing to share it with a friend that you think would also benefit from it. We hope to see you again soon.